Elon Musk has officially taken over control of Twitter, ending months of legal disputes with a $44 billion check he cut.
CEO Elon Musk just reinstated the account of former President Donald Trump. This does end a 22-month ban.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech. Really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they are able to speak freely within the bounds of the law. Having a public platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is extremely important to the future of civilization.
We often talk about, in the modern world, the inclusivity of different cultures, different ways of life, different sexual orientations, and how we need to be tolerant and understanding of all these different people's life paths, and by extension, their different ways of viewing the world. I'm a unique individual, as is everybody else, and I have a unique life path that has led me to unique points of view. I think that all of the people who disagree with me are very, very welcome to disagree with me because they have had a unique life path and a different point of view, and I respect that, absolutely. I would never shout for any of the people who disagree with anything I say to be silenced or canceled, because I don't think that helps the world. I think that discourse is always going to be the way that we lead ourselves to the truth. And if anybody has anything contrary to say about any of my points of view, I welcome it, I like to hear it, and as long as it's in a respectful and adult manner, I often platform it on my platforms as much as possible so I can sit and discuss and I can learn things. Because if I have a point of view and someone challenges it in a very adult, correct, logical way, very often I have changed my point of view. And this has been really, really good for me as a person to grow and for the audience to grow. And I know I've changed many other people's minds when they've come to debate with me. And this is the beauty of being human.
I don't think there's any difference between free speech and thought. And it has to be free, because if it's not free, it's not thought. So imagine mostly you have to think about hard things, because why think? Otherwise, if everything's going all right, you don't have a problem. When you have a problem, you have to think. And if you have a problem, the thinking is going to be troublesome, because you're going to think things that upset yourself and upset other people. It's part of what will necessarily happen if you're thinking. You have a right to free speech because the entirety of society depends for its ability to adapt to the changing horizon of the future on the free thought of the individuals who compose it. It's like a free market. In some sense, it's a free market argument in relationship to thought. We have to compute this transforming horizon. Well, how do we do that? Well, by consciously engaging with possibility. Well, how do we do that? Well, it's mediated through speech. So societies that are going to function over any reasonable amount of time have to leave their citizens alone to grapple stupidly with complexity, so that out of that stupid grappling, fraught grappling that's offensive and difficult and upsetting, we can grope towards the truth collectively before taking the steps to implement those truths before they've been tested.
I think I started to really feel this need to express myself on another level when Trump was running for office, and I liked him. Yes. And every single person in Hollywood, from my ex-wife to my mother-in-law to my manager at that time to, you know, my so-called friends / handlers around me, told me, like, if I said that I liked Trump, that my career would be over, that my life would be over. They said stuff like people get killed for wearing a hat like that. They threatened my life. They put my life. They basically said that I would be killed for wearing the hat. I had someone call me last night and said anybody wearing a White Lives Matter shirt is gonna be greenlit, and that means that they're gonna beat them up if they wear it. And I'm like, you know, okay, green light me then. You know, that's what's happening. Is God is like preparing us for the real battles. And we are in a battle with the media. Like, the majority of the media has a godless agenda, and their jokes in that work, and this whole like, oh yeah, he's crazy and all these things, they don't work because the media has, you know, they've also watched travesties happen, just even specifically to me, and just watch it and act like it wasn't happening, and they stay quiet about it.
Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak. If anyone's not allowed to speak, then it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom to conform to certain parameters of what are acceptable. And then what that's doing is giving power to some authority to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And as we see, and we're seeing it massively now, once you give that power to an authority, it then starts interpreting what can and cannot be said in a way that squeezes and squeezes and squeezes more and more of what cannot be said. This is what political correctness is about. What is political correctness? It's simply manipulating the target population to silence itself, so those in authority don't have to. It's ridiculous. I've been talking for 30 years and writing for 30 years. There are very few people control the world. Very few people. People will be staggered how few. A lot of people have said in response to that, a few people can't control the world. There's too many people. It's not possible. Well, now we have a handful of people, which you could probably get on 10 fingers, that control Google, control YouTube, owned by Google, control Facebook, that absolutely dominate the information that most people see or don't see. We have a concentration of power in Silicon Valley, a very small area of the world, that is the greatest concentration of surveillance and censorship power the world has ever seen. They can decide what you see and what you don't see, and they can trawl your data, in other words, the intelligence, military intelligence community can, to find out the fine detail of your life from the information that you've posted on these various platforms. So that's where what we're facing in terms of freedom of speech. It's disappearing. In fact, it doesn't exist. There is no freedom of speech. By the definition of freedom of speech is the freedom to speak your opinion and not have it censored and not have it banned. Entrepreneurs who are genuine, who believe in freedom of speech, they have a fantastic opportunity here and can make an enormous contribution to human freedom by developing platforms and developing a communication platform to replace these system-controlled operations, so that we don't have to use the system to bring the system down only. We have our own free platforms, non-censored platforms that can communicate it. And the more that you have censorship and suppression in the official media networks, the more people will gravitate towards those that are censorship free. And it will become counterproductive then for the corporate giants in Silicon Valley to go down the road they're going, because they'll just be replaced. I've been on this journey now for nearly 30 years. I have seen a dramatic transformation, both in the numbers of people that want to look at the world in another way and see that maybe this official narrative is not exactly how it is or anything like it is. And not only that, the kind of people within the system, people that a few years ago you thought, well, they'd never be in a position to think differently or question, but they are. There is a changing awareness going on that the world is not like they thought it was, and the system has told them from cradle since they were born how things are.